The room was quiet except for the slow hum of fluorescent lights. Captain Elena Cross stood alone in the operations chamber, her gloved hands resting on the edge of a steel table. The digital map glowed beneath her fingers, an isolated mountain corridor marked with red symbols and blinking warning indicators. High risk. Low visibility. Enemy controlled. She exhaled slowly. Across the table, the commanding officer studied her face. "You'll be alone on this one," he said. "No team. No backup on the ground." Elena didn't answer immediately. She had learned long ago that silence carried more weight than promises. The officer continued. "An enemy weapons convoy is moving through this pass at dawn. If it reaches the valley, hundreds of civilians will be trapped in the crossfire." He paused. "We need a ghost. A single shot. One chance." Elena finally spoke. "I'll take it." The room fell into stillness. The mission clock began to tick. Back in the armory, Elena moved with calm precision. Rifle, scope, breathing mask, ammunition. Each piece of equipment carried its own memory. Each scratch on the metal meant survival. Each worn strap told a story of another night, another ridge, another mission she had walked away from when others could not. As she assembled her rifle, her mind drifted, uninvited, into the past. She saw herself at 12 years old, standing beside her father on a frozen hillside. He had been a forest ranger, a man of quiet discipline. Patience, he had told her, guiding her hands on a rusted hunting rifle. Justice doesn't rush. It waits for the right moment. That was the day she learned to aim. That was the day she learned to wait. The memory faded as she finished tightening the final bolt. Tonight, patience would save lives again. The helicopter dropped her 10 kilometers from the ridge. Too far for comfort. Too close for safety. Snow crunched beneath her boots as she moved through the mountains. The air was thin, sharp, unforgiving. Wind howled between broken stone like distant voices warning her away. But Elena did not stop. She climbed through ravines and frozen slopes, her body moving on instinct, conserving strength. The stars shifted overhead as time slowed into something thick and heavy. Hours passed. At the crest of a distant hill, she paused. Below her, the valley. Enemy vehicles crawled through the narrow pass like dark insects. Armored transports, supply trucks, heavy weapon platforms. She saw the civilians' route marked just beyond the far ridge. If the convoy broke through, the valley would burn. Elena lowered herself into position. The hunt had begun. Before she took her first breath behind the scope, another memory surfaced. Her first combat mission. She had been 22. Too young, too fast, too eager. Her spotter had been killed by a mortar strike because she rushed a shot. She made the kill, but she lost the man who trusted her. That night, she learned the real price of haste. Now, years later, her hands were steady. She adjusted for wind, adjusted for distance, adjusted for fate. The convoy moved closer. The target vehicle rolled into view, the command unit. Elena tracked it through her scope. Breath in, breath out. The world narrowed to a single point of light. She squeezed. The rifle spoke once. The command vehicle lurched to a halt. Chaos erupted. Enemy soldiers scrambled for cover. Radios screamed with confusion. Weapons roared blindly into the dark. But the convoy stalled. And in war, momentum decides everything. Elena began to move. Searchlights swept the ridge. Rounds tore through stone near her position. Snow burst into white clouds around her as bullets chased her shadow. She slid downhill, rolling behind jagged rock. her breath tearing through her lungs. Pain flared through her leg. She had been hit. Not deep, but deep enough to slow her. She pressed her hand against the bleeding and forced herself back up. No panic. No hesitation. Justice waits, her father's voice whispered. She found a new position. The enemy closed in. Too fast. Too many. Elena placed trip charges behind her, retreating by centimeters, turning distance into time. Explosions followed. Fire lit the ridge, but still they came. As she reloaded with trembling hands, she remembered her mother's voice. "You don't fight because you hate what's in front of you," her mother once said. "You fight because you love what's behind you." Elena thought of the valley, the children, the homes, the people who would never know her name. Love was heavier than fear. She rose again. Her last position sat on the edge of the ridge. Behind her, nothing but open sky. In front, enemy fire. Elena activated her final device, the signal beacon. High above the clouds, friendly aircraft locked onto her marker. The first missile struck the convoy. Fire swallowed steel. Explosions rolled through the valley like thunder. Elena felt the shockwave tear past her, throwing her flat against the rock. For a moment, the world vanished. Silence returned slowly. She lifted her head. The convoy was gone. The ridge was burning. And she was still alive. By the time rescue reached her, dawn was breaking. Elena limped through the snow toward the extraction point, blood staining white crystal red. The sky burned orange over the mountains. For the first time in hours, she exhaled. The mission was complete, but inside her, the echoes would remain forever. The valley would live, and that was enough. They would never build a statue for her. Her name would never be spoken on the news. But somewhere, a family would eat breakfast in peace. A child would walk to school safely. A valley would wake without war. And Elena Cross would go home, not as a ghost, but as a protector history would never know. The battle is over, but the stories continue. Subscribe, leave a like, and return for the next chapter.